Hey, what's up guys, TechGuyHarjit here, and this is a review of the Sony Xperia Miro, and thanks to Vodafone.co.uk for sending this phone out for review. They have great handsets, they've got pre-orders coming for the Xperia Z. If you're interested in that phone, links below, tell them TechGuyHarjit sent you. So, now, let's get started. So let's start off with going around the phone first. And I am sorry, I do have a bit of a cold, so that's why my voice is a bit weird. So let's start off with the bottom. There is nothing really at the bottom of this phone except for the little microphone which picks up your voice when you're in a call. And on the right side you have the volume rocker. Let me see if I can get that in focus a bit better. There we go. So you have the volume rocker on the right hand side. At the top you have the sleep wake / power button, and then you also have your 3.5mm headphone jack. On the right you don't really have anything except for this guy, which is your micro USB port for charging and syncing. Now let's look at the front of the device as it turns on. And yes, that is why I've got it connected to the charger, because it ran out of juice. So we will turn it on in a minute, but let's quickly go around the actual phone itself first. So at the front you get 3 capacitive buttons which just stay there, whereas more newer phones, they're illuminated, so when you touch them it comes up, whereas otherwise they are just, can't see them unless they light up. But with this phone they're just there for you to see. You have a nice Xperia logo at the bottom. It's quite hard to see that. And then you have a Sony logo at the top, right there. So, and at the back you do have a 5-megapixel camera which only shoots VGA. I would have maybe expected it to shoot 720, but currently this camera only shoots VGA. And it is a 3.5-inch TFT display with a resolution of 320 by 840 pixels, giving it a PPI of 165 pixels per inch. So let's turn this guy on and see what it's about. So we're greeted with the Sony logo and then a nice Xperia branding. This phone does have Android 4.0, which is Ice Cream Sandwich, so it's not that far behind in terms of upgrades, so you should be happy with what you've got. And then it's got an 800 MHz CPU with an accelerometer, a proximity sensor, and a compass. So here we have the lock screen. So all you do is, well, you should be, but let me show you first one thing interesting about this lock screen. You have the option of, you can either slide from the right to operate the camera, or slide from the left to lock the screen. So let's unlock the screen. No. So this is the screen you get. This is what you're greeted with when you first set up the phone and give it an unlock. So it is quite a fluent device. I think I would have expected it to be a bit more fluent for when it was released. It was released September 2012, so not that far off. But I think it could, as you can see, the screen does lag a bit. So if I swipe quite quickly, there is a bit of a lag. Whereas with phones like the S3 and more higher end phones, but then again, even with a bit more lower end phones, like for example, I've got a Samsung Ace 2 here, and from using this phone for a while, it is quite fluent, even though it is a bit of a low to mid range Android device. So I would have expected the Sony Xperia Miro to be a bit more fluent in scrolling. It just feels like it's not keeping up with my finger. And of course you have the Android marketplace, which have a ton of apps, and because this has Ice Cream Sandwich, most of these apps will work. So currently I don't really have many apps downloaded, but let's just go into Twitter. I only downloaded apps that I thought I would really use on a regular basis. So as you can see, it's just the same as all other Android phones, but obviously scaled down to fit the screen. So let's see, let's scroll, let's give some shout outs, shall we? Okay, so we've got shout out going out to Gadgets Boy. You can go follow him. Nokia Connects, Chris Perillo, TechCrunch, Hydro Ninja. There are quite a lot of people on my Twitter feed. They are all really good. So if you see anyone that you recognize and are not already following them, give them a follow. So that's Twitter, but obviously this is not a review of Twitter. This is a review of the phone. Call quality, I made 2-3 calls, and the person on the other end heard me fine, and I could hear them as well. I didn't experience any dropped calls for the amount of time I used this, but I didn't want to abuse the network that provided this phone to me. So I only did 3-4 tests, not many. So what I basically used this phone for was everything except for major phone calls. I used my main phone for making phone calls. When it came to using apps and everything, I tried my very best to force myself to use this phone so I could give you a fair, decent review. And of course, because this is Android, you get all your standard Google apps. You get Google Maps, Gmail, navigation, all built in without having to even bother to go into the marketplace and download them. Let's say, don't show me this again. Now the camera is a 5 megapixel, but for a 5 megapixel, I do think it could have done a bit better. So let's quickly show you what the camera quality looks like. Now do remember you are watching this through my camera, so quality might be a bit off. So let's focus in on this camera lens, and now let's take the picture, and there you have it. So let's go back into that picture we just took. So that's the kind of quality you would expect from this camera. It is quite, it is detailed if we zoom in a bit, but I think it could be a bit more detailed if you compare other 5 megapixel phones like the iPhone 4. The iPhone 4, I think personally, had better saturation than what the Xperia Miro offers. So that's the camera, and of course you get an array of settings with the camera. So let me just quickly show you that as well. So if we click on the settings tab, which is right here, you get an array of settings. You get scenes. So this is if you're in night mode, sports, trying to capture fast moving objects, landscape, and even a document. So if you want to take a picture of a document rather than having to scan it, that option is very good, as it brings out the written words more than the actual. Like if all you're trying to focus on is the written content rather than the images portrayed in the document, that's a very good option to choose. And of course, you have resolution. You can choose from anything from 2 megapixels up to 5. And if you choose 2 or 3 megapixels, the aspect ratio does change to 16:19. What else do we get? You get flash, which is an automatic flash, or you can force the flash to be on all the time or turn it off completely. Self timer, so if you want to stand this up on a table, or if you've got some kind of tripod which is compatible with this phone, set it on a timer, run to the front of the phone and take your pictures. Focus mode, you can change the focus mode. You can have it that it continuously focuses without you having to tap, or you can tap to focus. I prefer tap to focus because then I can focus on certain parts of the picture rather than it being an overall focus. Exposure, you can change the exposure, have it brighter or dimmer depending on what kind of circumstances the scene you're capturing the images in. And of course you have your white balance, your metering, and your geotagging, where you can tag the location the picture was taken. And then of course, because this is a Sony device, you get an array of Sony apps such as the Walkman, the FM radio, and albums. So if we skip this page, because this is mostly Vodafone apps, so you get camera, email, Play Store, Facebook. No, Facebook was downloaded. You don't get Facebook with this. You get calendar, Gmail, Google Maps, Google Talk, navigation, calculator, local, album, clock. YouTube comes built in, which is interesting. News and weather, playbook, films, music and videos. Google Chrome also comes built in. And you get Evernote. You get quite a lot of apps which you didn't really want, to be honest. There's a lot of bloatware on this device. Now let's go into the actual browser. I'm not going to go into Chrome because I feel that we should test the stock browser that comes with this phone. So if we go to, let's just go to google.com as a good starting point. And the keyboard is reasonable. So if you go to Google, so here we have Google. It is basically the way you would see it on any other Android device. So let's just go to my website, and please be aware that I am typing looking through a camera lens, through a camera's LCD, so the typing might be a bit off. But in general, I didn't really like the keyboard on this phone. I felt that I had to tap the keys quite a few times to get it at the exact point I wanted it on, which was a bit cumbersome. But I mean, after a while you start to get used to it, but it's not as fluid as you would see if you're coming from a bit more of a high-end phone. So if we go to TechGuyHarjitTv, if I can type this correctly, and of course that forwards on to my YouTube channel. So as you can see, it's all there. It is basically like any other Android device, and if you haven't subscribed, do give me a subscribe. TechGuyHarjitTv. So let's see how video playback looks on this phone. I just gave myself a thumbs down. Let's not do that. So if we make this full screen, turn the volume down so you can still hear what I'm saying. Okay, it does take a bit of time to get into landscape mode. So I mean, video quality is quite good. For something that is a VGA screen, the quality of the image and the videos is quite good. So this is actually the unboxing of this very phone. Links will be down below if you want to have a full look at that. I won't spoil it for you by showing you the whole thing. So we just press the back button to go back, and then flip it over to get back to landscape mode. I mean portrait mode, sorry. So if we see, it does take a while for it to get from landscape to portrait, but it's not really something that you should be noticing. It doesn't really take that long. So another big feature about this phone, of course, is the widgets. So I've currently got a Gmail widget set up right here. If I can focus in on that a bit better. So I've got a Gmail widget which has all my emails, and that's really it. Because I tried using the widgets, but then it takes up, I think, because I've got the main apps that I use on a day-to-day basis, which is Twitter, Facebook, and just checking my emails. That is really all I needed. And the reason I don't have WhatsApp on there is that I used WhatsApp on my main phone, because of course this is only a review unit, so I wouldn't have all my contacts on this. But all in all, if you're looking to get started on Android, this is a good phone to go for. If you're more someone that wants to go for a bit more high end, I would look at other things like the up and coming Xperia Z. So thank you for watching, guys. This was a very quick review. Expect more reviews, and thanks once again to Vodafone for sending this phone out for review, and many more phones to come. Do subscribe. I should, if my luck is good, be having the BlackBerry Z10 in for review soon. If not that, maybe another very good high-end phone for you guys to look at. So do subscribe, share out this video. You know how it is. So thanks again, and like always, I will see you again another time in another video. Take care.